I'm gonna be leaving town on vacation for a week in, well, less than 24 hours at this point, and given the title of this video, I bet you can guess what my mind said to me. Jordan, you don't own enough cameras. And of course, DJI just released their brand new Osmo Action, so I couldn't say no. I tried out the original DJI Osmo and the Osmo Pocket, which actually is one of my favorite cameras at the moment. It's definitely going with me on vacation, but this one fills a very different niche for me. If you're not familiar with it, the Osmo Action is basically sort of a GoPro clone, but from what I've seen, it does things a little bit differently and in some cases a little bit better. So it does 4K 60 like the newest GoPro. It does 1080p 8x, I think 240 frames per second. It does the 4K image stabilization. It is electronic, so there's no physical hardware moving or anything. It's waterproof like the GoPro, but instead of 10 meters, it's 11 meters. Ooh. It does 4K HDR, which again, I think the GoPro does. Comes with a whole bunch of accessories, but it has dual screen. And we'll get into what that does in just a minute, but if you can't guess from the front, there's a screen on the front, and it's not a simple black and white screen with numbers on it. It's actually got video on it. It's also got a screw-off lens filter. I don't have any filters for it at the moment, but might have to look into that for a future video. So anyway, what comes in the box? Well, as you would probably expect, you get the camera. You also get a big white box that contains a couple of mounting options. Now, I didn't mention it earlier, but the mount that's included on this is just a standard GoPro mount. So if you have GoPro accessories, they will continue to work with this. But DJI has also opted to include their own kind of mount in addition to this. But there's also a button on this mount, so you can kind of push on it and twist, and it just easily pops off like that. So instead of having to undo a whole screw and take everything off and put it back together, if you have multiples of these, if you have different types of these mounts, so if they ever came out with one for like a car mount or a tripod mount or whatever else in this particular format, then you would have your camera attached to it, you hit a button on it and give it a little twist and the entire camera comes off super easily. Very nice. Get a little bag with a USB-C to full-size USB cable and that screw-in piece just like you get with a GoPro. Except it has a very large handle on the end of it, so it should make it very easy to attach. A buttload of documentation and warranty information and everything. And then a little box here, a little black box that opens up, has a small slot for your memory card if you want to keep a spare with you, and the battery itself. That's another cool thing about this. The battery door is actually a part of the battery, so you don't have to worry about fumbling with the battery. You just hit a button and it'll pop out. We'll get to that in a second too. Let's peel all this extra stuff off of here. Lens cover, take it out of its housing. Oh, that's very easy to open. Easy to open, a little bit difficult to remove because this little filter on the front kind of catches on the housing. But we'll peel all the rest of this off. But there you have the camera. So on the front, you can see the lens with the front-facing screen, 1.5-inch screen. Looks very similar to the one on the DJI Osmo Pocket. This is supposed to be removable. I'm not having any luck taking it off at the moment, so I'll probably have to look through the documentation. But again, I don't have a replacement filter or anything, an ND filter or polarizer, so there's no reason to do it yet. You have a QS button on the side, a quick switch button here that opens up to give you access to the USB-C port as well as the micro SD card slot. On the other side, this appears to be a speaker as well as maybe a microphone, and I'm going to assume this is another microphone on top, record button, power and display button, and what looks like a status LED, and then the large screen on the back, the large touch screen. And I just realized I don't have a micro SD card in this room. There we go, micro SD cards. So let's go ahead and open the side here, place the micro SD card in, just like that. We'll place the battery in the bottom. You see it just clicks in place like that. And actually it looks like it locks in two places, which is kind of nice. So you have one lock over here, you pop, nothing happens, it kind of lifts up on that side. The other side you pop, the entire battery comes up. But if you only do one or the other, it doesn't come out. And I think I hit a button. So let's go ahead and push the power button and see what happens. I just touched it. Makes a noise. And now we go through the setup. Activate with DJI Mimo app. Luckily, I've got the app on my phone, and I didn't have to do anything. It immediately popped up and said device connection Osmo Action. It says check the verification code. Yep, they do match. And now it's going through an activation, and we're activating. It's registered the device. It says activation successful. It's asking about DJI Care refresh. I don't want that right now. And it does mention inserting a micro SD card before shooting. Use a micro SD card with a maximum capacity of 256 gigs and a UHS Speed 3 rating. Press power once to power it on. Press and hold to power it off. Press it while it's on to turn the screen on or off or switch screens. Press the shutter button once to start or stop recording. Snapshot while the device is powered off. Press the QS button on the side to switch modes in camera view. Returns to camera view in settings or playback. And you can press or hold to switch between the front and rear screen. Swipe the touchscreen to access features. It is waterproof, and we're done. And a firmware update, as you would expect. This firmware update, version 1.02.00.10, updated the EIS to rock steady Added a 2-second and 5-second timer to count down, optimized system sounds, increased Wi-Fi stability, improved time-lapse, and HDR quality. And it looks like it is updating now. So I think what I'll do, again, I'm leaving in less than 24 hours, so I'm probably going to do a few quick clips using this. There are definitely more things I would like to talk about with this, but I'm really looking forward to using this camera. Just holding it in the hand, it feels rock solid and very kind of heavy for something this size. Very nice that it does work with all the GoPro accessories using this cage. I think obviously I would normally complain about it not having a tripod mount, but this works around it pretty easily as long as you do keep this little cage with you. And the firmware update already finished. I sat here and talked for apparently too long. It does say update successful up here. So let's take a look at the menus if we can. Swipe down. That gives us just a bunch of options. Custom modes, brightness of the screen, screen lock. This looks like a settings button, voice control. I've heard the voice control on this is excellent. Snapshot does whatever the latest settings are, or video, or photo, slow motion, time-lapse, or HDR, or burst, or timed, or I'm gonna pick latest settings just in case. Auto, up, down, that is orientation. Spot metering, if you wanna use spot metering, press and hold enter metering mode. Voice commands, you can disable or enable voice control. I'm gonna turn that on. Oh, and this is the, if you wanna have the front screen do full size or do the actual size of what you're gonna see. We'll swipe over. That's going to give us some settings where we can change exposure compensation, ISO max settings. You can put it into manual mode here, which is really nice for an action camera. Swipe over from the other side. That takes us back to pictures and videos we've already taken. Swipe up from the bottom, you can change the ratio, the countdown timer, push the quick settings button on the side. We're in video mode. We can go to HDR video, slow-mo, time-lapse, video. Definitely have to turn off those sounds though. The beep is a little obnoxious. So back in the settings mode, like I said, voice control, quick switch. In here we can add the things we want to be able to quick switch between. Wireless connection, wind noise reduction, sounds. I'm definitely going to be turning those off because that's just obnoxious. You can put a grid on the screen, anti-flicker, screen auto sleep, auto power off, LEDs all on, all off probably. Front LEDs off only, date and time settings, format your SD card, factory reset, all those fun things. And then I think one of the other things to make sure to mention is that this does have that front facing screen. I haven't even looked at it yet, but supposedly if you double tap with 2 fingers on the rear screen, so tap tap, it does a switch and then the front screen comes on. And I think if you hold this quick switch button also, it should switch back and forth. Yeah, I just held the button for a second there and then I hold it again, switches back. You can see the front. And you can kind of see me in there, maybe. Hello. Oh, and I guess now that I'm in video mode, when I swipe up from the bottom, I've got the option to change the resolution from 4K to 4K 4:3 to 2.7K 4:3, 2.7K, 1080p, 720p. I'm going to take it right back to 4K. Although I've heard somewhere that 2.7K at 30 or 60 frames per second is one of the better ways to do this, but I would rather use 4K. That's what I bought it for. And as you can see in the top right here, Rocksteady. That's an option you can turn on or off. We'll get something here just for a point of reference. So I've got my iPhone here. It's taking up pretty much the whole screen. And if I change to Rocksteady off and swipe down, you can see I get a little bit more real estate there. Turn it back on, and then yeah, it's taking up a little bit more of the screen. Probably only going to be an issue if you're really close to the camera. I'm going to leave it on because I've heard that the Rocksteady in this is absolutely amazing. And let's do a very quick clip while we're sitting here just so you can see what the video looks like, what the audio sounds like, and try to make sure I'm not touching microphones or anything. Okay, so here's a very quick video using the DJI Osmo Action 4K 30 frames per second using Rocksteady. One thing I am noticing immediately is that the small screen, the mini screen there, is about a half a second delayed, which means that everything that I'm saying and doing when I wave my hands around, it's like happening a half a second later, which is a little distracting, but I guess that's the electronic processing and taking just an extra second to make sure that if I do something like this, you didn't really see that, did you? I wiggle my arm around quite a bit. Like, I'm wiggling a lot, and you're probably not seeing that much. I can even wiggle this. You're going to see a little bit of jitter that way, but that's really impressive stabilization. For the sake of comparison, this is the exact same thing, but I've got Rocksteady turned off, so now when I'm moving my hands around, I can see everything moving, but it's definitely a lot more jittery. So if I wiggle my arm around, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that very much. I did it an awful lot more than that, and I moved the camera like this, so I'm not going to do any more of that, so sorry for your motion sickness there. I did test a clip just a minute ago, and I noticed there was a lot of flickering and banding from this area from the lights, so I'm guessing the anti-flicker, I probably should go in and set it to 60 instead of setting it to auto, but there you go. And now we'll try out the auto HDR. Now, I do not see Rocksteady as an option for the HDR mode, but this is what it looks like, so it's not going to be quite as steady. It looks very, very flat. Again, I did a quick test of this earlier because I messed all this up earlier, but it looks a whole lot more flat. I guess you could do a little bit of color grading to it. There's also other color profiles like Cine-like and stuff that you can do a lot of that too, but I'm not one for that. With an action camera, I want it straight out of the camera into the video so I can just immediately use it. But if you're into that kind of thing, there are a lot of options with this camera. And there are even more things that I haven't touched on yet. This is not a full review, just my initial thoughts, but I've been going on for about 20 minutes so far. Since I am in video mode, if I swipe over here, you can see I have auto and manual controls, but then I also have white balance controls, color settings, de-warping if you want that turned on or off, so I can turn it on. And now I'm back to filming regular video on the DJI Osmo Action with the de-warp turned on, just to see how it compares, but again, 4K 30, de-warp turned on, so maybe the bubbling in the corners will be a little bit better, but I'm not even holding this at full arm's length. This is full arm's length, and you can see my arm is very much warped a little bit, but it gives me a lot of wiggle room in terms of what I can film in a small amount of area. So I'm definitely looking forward to using this on my upcoming trip. Hopefully you like the video and audio samples from this. There will be more. I'm going to be doing a lot of video over on my second channel while we're on vacation, so there'll be some video from this. There'll probably be video from the Osmo Pocket, maybe from the GoPro Hero 7. I do have one of those as well. Maybe from the Sony RX0 Mark II. I picked one of those up and have not made a video about it yet. But that's going to wrap the video up for today. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to know about this, let me know down in the comment section below. I didn't even try out the voice control, so I'll be doing that on vacation too. Thank you as always for watching. Subscribe to the channel to get notified when new videos come out. Ring the notification bell if you want to actually be notified. And I'll see you again very soon. Bye guys.